Do you ever come across an old piece of media that takes you back, like an old cartoon or game, and boom, you're hit in a daze of nostalgia? Nostalgia has to be one of the most unique feelings because you get this heartfelt sensation, like damn, life was really something else back then, and memories of your childhood start coming through. You're happy, but then a second wave of depression kicks in, because it's a piece of time that you can't get back. The present you can never experience what you felt in your childhood, no matter how hard you try to replicate it. A prime example would be OG Fortnite in 2017. That entire year was pretty nostalgic. We had mumble rap, YouTube diss tracks, and of course, prime Fortnite. And I know y'all remember the feeling of shitting your pants when camping in a bush at the final circle. That's an experience that you can never get again. Fortnite tried to bring this back in December 2024, but playing it when you're 13 versus when you're an adult doesn't hit the same. That's just the truth. Most of Gen Z already have turned Unk status, and there's only a few years left before all of Gen Z becomes adults. And as a fellow Gen Z myself, I decided to dedicate this video to highlight the memorable moments in our generation's childhood, starting with music. When I think of Gen Z's era of music, I separate them into two categories. The first one being the radio hits. Before streaming services were popular, we got the good old-fashioned radio station. We didn't get to pick a song to play. You just turn on your favorite station and listen to whatever was on. And the music was a bop. We had Rude, 1,000 Miles, Firework by Katy Perry. A lot of them were one-hit wonders, but I can guarantee everyone in my age recognizes these classics. The major artists I remember dominating were Bruno Mars, Pitbull, and Maroon 5. The music they put out fit perfectly within the era. It wasn't anything deep or thought-provoking, but it gave that energetic, happy music for those times where you just want to have fun. I would put on a 2010s radio playlist during a road trip or vacation and the whole group's jamming out. The second category I would consider to be from full-length albums. Not just single releases that got popular, but an entire setlist from an artist. A lot of mainstream artists had their staple project in this era, like Adele's 25, Drake's Views, Frank Ocean's Blonde, Rihanna's Anti, My Goat The Weeknd with Starboy, and even Taylor Swift. Being a stupid little dumb kid, I just like how the music sounded. But when I listen to it now, I understand the meaning behind some of these lyrics and I feel a stronger appreciation. All I can say is, these albums aged like fine wine. 2015 to 2018 was a golden age for Gen Z music, as most of the albums I listed came out in those years. But a historical landmark in that period was the 2016 XXL Freshman list. This was the pinnacle of the new sound of hip-hop. And music still has been changing to this day. I know I'm gonna sound like an old head when I say this, but the concept of an album doesn't really exist anymore. What I mean is how songs would follow a narrative or meaning connected together in a track list. Nowadays, I feel like it's just a bunch of singles thrown together in a box. Before, there was a deeper meaning to an album's entirety, and it was more than just listening. It was experiencing. The type of experience that makes you want to read into it. And speaking about reading, books. I know people dislike reading because of how mundane it is, like why would you want to pick up a book when you could brain rot for 2 hours? But luckily, our generation was blessed to have a childhood without overstimulating media, and also entertaining novels. I like to shout out all the authors who wrote for the younger audience. Dr. Seuss. I fuck with your rhyming, but I still remember that book, Green Eggs and Ham. And that story was about peer pressuring someone to eat green eggs and ham. Bro, you convinced someone to get food poisoning. I think you're overrated, but still, I'll give you a 7 out of 10. Jeff Kinney. You made the most realistic children's book. Most kids' books have a more of the story, but the main character, Greg Heffley, never learned his lesson and was a narcissist. This guy broke his best friend's arm, and when his best friend gets the HUD's attention from it, he gets jealous. And it's perfect in the way that Greg Heffley was so imperfect. 10 out of 10. R.L. Stein. You had a whole series that's purpose was to scare children shitless. I do not remember any Goosebumps book that was boring. That creepy puppet still haunts me. For the genre of making PG scary stories, I'll give you a 9 out of 10. There's so many other novels we got the luxury to read as a child. Did you know they turned the Hunger Games movie into a book? That's crazy. But Captain Underpants was my shit. The story follows 2 4th graders who have a mean principal, who also turns to a superhero with a snap of fingers. They fought some interesting villains like Wedgie Woman, Professor Poopy Pants.
Hell no.
This book didn't age that well, but there were these live action fights. The books had pages you can flip back and forth to see the fight come to life. Reading in the early 2000s was almost as fun as when I played on my Nintendo DS. We didn't have a phone in our pocket. We had a DS. The DS was probably the best handheld console in existence. I didn't have any other Nintendo consoles, so it was my first time getting exposure to the Pokemon and Mario games. My favorite game was probably Super Mario Party, since it had interesting boss battles and it allowed the multiplayer feature. But one thing I'm still tripping out about is how you can put two DSs together and connect in a game. You can battle Pokemon with someone in a single player game with no Wi-Fi. What kind of witchcraft was that? Was that Bluetooth? Was Bluetooth a thing back then? If we weren't playing the DS, we would be playing browser games on Flash. Papa's Pizzeria was where I got my first work experience. Put that on my resume and everything. But it's also where I learned that customers are annoying as hell. Like bro, wait 30 seconds for your pizza to be done. The best browser game was definitely Super Smash Flash though. Like I said, I had no other Nintendo consoles, so Super Smash Flash was a substitute to the real thing. But I would argue that it's even better because we got Goku and Naruto here. Does the new Super Smash Bros. Even have that? That's what I thought. I think the closure of Gen Z nostalgia games was through mobile devices. Everyone, including kids, started using a phone, and that's where we got introduced to iPad games. A phone was just a touchscreen device without buttons or a controller, so a lot of popular mobile games followed a simple concept. Angry Birds was a slingshot game to hit pigs on a tower. Cut the Rope, where you swipe your screen to navigate the piece of candy into the screen thing's mouth. Fruit Ninja, which is slicing fruits. Later on, mobile games got more complex, like with Plants vs Zombies, Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. Supercell was really killing it with the mobile games. I still play Brawl Stars to this day. Having a phone or computer also introduced us to social media, where people would just post whatever to the internet. And before the big three being TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, the big three were MySpace, Vine, and still YouTube. YouTube was a platform that survived the ever-changing environment of social media. And since it survived this long, we still get to see videos from the OGs. Sometimes an old YouTuber will pop up on my homepage, and once I click on it, I'm in a loop of binging their videos. You just get this sense of authenticity that's not seen anymore in the modern day. It's not filled with crazy edits or sound effects to keep your engagement. Nigahiga was my favorite YouTuber at the time, maybe because I'm Asian or something, I don't know. But if you look at his old videos from the early 2010s, the quality was insane. He had a mix of creativity and comedy within the content, while being extremely down to earth. Which is why he holds a very strong reputation for being one of the GOATs of YouTube. Credits to the whole team too, I actually bumped into a few members not too long ago. With old media in general, I know the word corny gets labeled with a lot of these creators. You know who I'm talking about. But given the landscape at the time, that was the humor. I mean, we're in the stage where we're laughing at AI memes right now. Come on. 5 years from now, this is gonna be corny too. But the one thing that will never be corny was our elementary school experience. We must have all lived the same lives, because I see old photos resurfacing of a 2000s elementary school. And I feel like that's my school. That's our school. Something as simple as rolling on these carts were the highlight of my day. I wasn't really an active kid, but if there were hula hoops, jump ropes, and monkey bars, who wouldn't be having fun? You just had to worry about falling though, because some evil person decided to make the floor filled with tan bark. It's worse than hitting concrete, because if you fall, you're landing on spikes with guaranteed splinters. Recess was easily the top 10 things to exist. I don't know why they took it away in middle school, but I remember the time being super slow. The break was only for like 20 minutes, but it was enough time to play Foursquare and tag. Nowadays, I feel like 20 minutes isn't even enough time to go to the bathroom. It was easy to be happy in an elementary school environment. I could get my favorite juice box and I'm fulfilled. Sometimes my mom would pack me snacks during lunch and we would trade them at the lunch table. The fudge pudding was my favorite. There was overall less stress in life too. The only thing we had to worry about was schoolwork, and even then, it wasn't even that stressful. They would give us simple questions like this equation sheet. What's 1 + 4? 6, easy. We took elementary school assignments for granted. Back then, we could finish assignments during class and not have to worry about homework. Now it's a college exception to be pulling all-nighters to finish an assignment. Sometimes I wonder how much the elementary school environment changed. It was very plasticky, but very colorful. But I won't be able to know because I'm not allowed within 100 feet of a school. So if you guys find out, let me know in the comments. And even though we can feel nostalgic about our childhood, we gotta appreciate it for what it was and move on. The same way life changed, we changed too. We grew up. That's the end of the story. Like our childhood author Dr. Seuss said, don't cry because it's all over. Smile because it happened. Anyway, there's a lot more to cover, so like and subscribe for a part 2. Follow my other social medias here, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.